at least as far as slowing Michigan down is concerned, they slowed them down in the red zone. Al, we thought that this would be a game where Michigan sort of dominated them through the air. It wound up being a dominant effort, but really it was about the physicality on the ground, sort of playing to your defense that really slammed the door on them in the second half, and your field goal kicking more than it was the passing game. So it wound up being dominant, just not the kind of dominant, at least that I expected it to be.
Yeah, too many ham sandwiches, Sam. Not enough steaks, right? The ball moved nicely, between the 20s. That was not an issue. I don't think they did. They punted once, I believe, right? Punted once, and they had a turnover. That was the only time they were stopped. But the drives inside the 20 were a combination of a lot of things. Okay, some a poor job up front of getting plays started. And when you get down there, they're going to be less discriminate, right? They're going to be indiscriminate at times defensively because they know they have to make something happen to either get a turnover or force a field goal. So you got to be more finite with your technique. And there were some technique errors in there that I think hurt him. A couple untimely calls into some bad scenarios, not too many, but a couple. Um, uh, Running into some bad numbers. And remember now, you get close to that goal line, those safeties get tighter and your numbers get tougher and tougher to block. So that was it. But I think in the first 5 trips to the red zone, I charted the whole red zone, went over the whole thing just because I knew it was going to be a bone of contention, is they scored 1 touchdown in 5 drives. You'd like to be around 80% touchdown percentage if you can, that. But
I think Michigan touchdown percentage in the red zone, I believe, is 63%. They're
yeah.
fifth most trips to the red zone in the country, but ranked 58th in terms of touchdown percentage. So look, they get there more than most teams, and so I guess you could kind of say, you're in part judging them based on frequency that they get there compared to some other teams, but still, that's the bar, right? The bar is you're one of the best in the country. What would the metric be? You're the coordinator. When you said you're a successful red zone team, what was the percentage touchdown wise?
You like to be around 80%. You like to be around 80% if you can. The thing Michigan's got going for them, and I know you never, and I pounded my shoe on the desk about this. You never want to be kicking too many field goals, right? But seldom does Michigan come away with nothing,
Mhm.
and that's important. It's important, even though it's not what you want. To drive that far and come away with nothing it can be morally, you know, difficult to deal with. But they always seem to come away with something, even when they don't. But the goal is to get touchdowns, kick extra points, don't kick field goals, right? And the Michigan State stayed in this game only because of Michigan continually uh, kicking field goals. So uh, the thing about it uh, down there is, I believe the best red zone years I had as a coordinator is you didn't depend on touchdown passes, but it had to be part of it. You know what I'm saying? So if you're scoring, if you say you're 80%, you're really doing well in the red zone, about half of those should be touchdown passes. Okay. About half of those should be touchdown passes. Michigan, because they're a power running team, uh, generally when they get in an early down in the red zone, it's going to be a run because they want, they're a running team that wants to make the defense prove they can stop the run. Okay. For example, in the first drive, the first run in the red area on first and goal was a split zone for fly action. Okay. Now it got leakage. Okay. They could not get the wrapper on the kick out because 64 Slade leaked into the backfield. The first drive of the second drive was a tackle wrap from 4-2, which was a pretty good play. So that's 2 red zone trips. First play's a run. Third red zone was a tight zone from triple formation that hit decent. Uh, the fourth drive, the first play was a naked boot, which was should have been big, but there was an air made on that play because Ronnie Bell was wide open on the play. And then the fifth drive, there was split zone fly action. So 4 out of the 5 drives on first and 10 uh, were runs. And I think that the reason they are is because of uh, their style of play. They're a power running team, and that makes sense. But if you're struggling in the red zone, sometimes it's a good idea to mix it up more, knowing that the field is constricted and the defense feels more compelled to be indiscriminate.
So Al, so many questions continue to come through about the red zone. We've talked about that at length, but let me try to encapsulate all the questions that continue to come through in the red zone in a nutshell. So you've seen Michigan through 8 games now, so you have an understanding of what you have and what different guys can do right by this point in the season. Game plan, the red zone, uh, moving forward. So sort of starting with this Rutgers game, which not the, I mean, no disrespect intended, but this is a scout team you're about to play,
Yeah,
essentially. So game plan, the red zone in this game, it, with an outlook for how it might translate moving forward.
well, as I said earlier, I think more early down passing and featuring the wide receivers. I think, and again, I'm not talking about throwing every down. I'm talking early down passing, where the expectations are that you're going to run the football, which opens up play action pass opportunities. That would be one. Again, I would not, just because of this game, I still would feature some quarterback runs. I don't see any issues with that. And the inclusion of naked bootlegs. I think nakeds inside the 20-yard line can be very effective. I went back over some of my old cut-ups, which I look at on occasion, and I counted 27 touchdown passes in 10 years off naked bootlegs. That's a lot of touchdown passes off of one concept. Michigan is a good naked team. They are very good at sliding receivers and running over routes and that type of stuff and working those sails. And they did run one naked down there. So they have it. But I think, adding maybe a little bit of that, and also, bearing in mind that McCarthy is a run threat too off that stuff. I think that's good. But just, I think more inclusion of the receivers, more early down passing, and just stick with the quarterback runs and your base run game. Don't give up on that, because goodness, they've been good. So
Yeah, other than the fade ball, which is what Devin was calling for. Let me see some more fades. Let me see. You use some of the. You got a 6'3" Cornelius Johnson. You got Ronnie, who is a good fade ball guy. You got some size even on the bench. Other than that, Al, are there particular plays, specific plays that based on what you've seen them do or in your experience? Plays that you would pull out in the red zone. It's like, yeah, man, I think this would be something that would work well for them.
most of them they have. It's just a matter of when you want to call them. The post corner post, which we've seen, right? The deep crashing routes, which we've seen. They have all those type of things. Shots for the end zone or checkdowns, touchdown or checkdown. Those type of corner post corners, uh, crossing routes, all those type of things are good stuff if you can get protected, because you get them in single coverage, you got a pretty good deal. And then once you break, the low red area, the +10, again, the naked bootlegs, the front and backs on the end line, those types of plays, they have all these plays. It's just a matter of how you time out those calls. Do you want to run them early? Do you want to run them late? And just know if they're passes and they're run late, they're less likely to work.
Mhm. Yeah, one thing I don't know is and I do not know the answer to this question. I don't know what their play calling, sequencing, how it's handled. Is it, does one guy handle all red zone, or do they still stick with third down and goal line being a particular? I don't know how the responsibilities are broken up, because Jim has had, he's had times where one guy was pass game, one guy was run game, the other guy was goal line, and I mean you've and so I don't know quite how that's being handled on this staff. And I don't know if that contributes to this at all either. But you have to
Yeah.
imagine that they look at a 63% conversion rate, because coaches, just like players, got to get better week to week. They got to be looking at it too. How do we improve this? You got to imagine that that's something. However, that sequencing is working out. That's something that they're looking at too.
Another idea, Sam, and I've done this. When we're struggling in the red zone, because there's always years where you're struggling. God, is to script the red zone. It's just like you would script the first 15 plays. is to say this way you're not left to the emotion of the game to make your decision on a play call. You've got it right there on a call sheet. You say, okay, once we break the 20, my first call is A. My second call is B, and if it's third down, have a separate script for your third downs. But that's another way to do it. That makes you say, okay, I'm going to throw a pass on 1st and 10 when all my instincts, if I didn't script it, would be to run a running play. So that's another thing I've done in the past. I haven't done it in every game, but I've done it when we were struggling, and I know I was falling into a little bit of a tendency when we got down there.
Gotcha.